Let's get a bit of a sense of where you would like the UAE-Luxembourg relationship to evolve from here.
Yeah, you mentioned the trade figures, but our relationship is much deeper than that, especially in financial services. Take, for example, the investment fund industry. 3 funds out of 4 that are sold and here in the Emirates and specifically also in Dubai are from Luxembourg. And in my discussions, I've seen a lot of potential to strengthen the relationship, especially in the field of fintech and in the field of sustainable finance, where the European Union is really pioneering this area. It is key if we want to combat climate change and embrace this challenge, make sure that we crowd in the private sector and especially the financial sector.
All right, so that's one front you're working on, and the bilateral relationship is one component of that. Back home in Europe, quite a bit of controversy around the digital tax. Have you gotten any clarification from France about their position, and do you think a deal is possible within the OECD by the end of the year?
Well, I had a very thorough, interesting discussion with the Finance Minister of U.A.E, Al on this subject. There's an important meeting coming up in Paris this month. I think we are not there yet. With what is good and what Luxembourg has always supported is that we need to find a solution at the OECD level so that we have at the end a level playing field and the same type of tax worldwide, because otherwise it will bring distortions. And obviously the goal is ambitious. Now France and a few other European countries have decided to go the national route, which obviously is making the negotiation more difficult. But in Davos, the American president and France agreed to suspend for the time being national initiatives, and that makes me optimistic that the discussions can proceed.
We're also looking forward to Eurozone GDP. You're seeing the uncertainties that are weighing on some of the economic momentum. In Europe, fourth quarter GDP expected at 0.2%. That's the Bloomberg estimate. What are your thoughts on where growth is in the Eurozone?
Well, I think 2018 was an excellent vintage with more than 2% growth. 19 was lower, around 1%. But we see that the route is up again. The latest figures show that we will end higher in 19 than expected, and also a better growth for 14. One must realize that we've had in the euro area 7 years of consecutive growth, so it's one of the longest periods of growth. And in fact, this is really good news that it's not talked about enough. We have created 14 million jobs in 5 years and reduced unemployment rate by 50% in this short period. So Europe is better off than is often said.
Do you think that central banks need to work closer together with policymakers on the fiscal side? Because those were some of the ideas being bounced around at Davos in terms of taking accommodation and stimulus to the next level.
Yes, I think the European Central Bank and all central banks are telling politicians, you have to do your part of the job. We are doing ours by having very low interest rates, so a very accommodative monetary policy on the one side, but you have to do your part of the job on the fiscal side, on the budgets. And now, I must say, in Europe, 2019 was the first year where all the EU countries complied with the Stability and Growth Pact. So we see progress, but obviously not enough when you think that we've had a period of good growth, and that's the period when you have to do the adjustments.
Brexit is set to happen at the end of the month. Do you feel that the impact from Brexit in Luxembourg is now beginning to be clearer at all?
Well, there's two good news in what is happening. We have now clarity. The United Kingdom is leaving at the end of this month. So we have an agreed divorce. The other good news is nobody is thinking of leaving the EU, so no domino effect. Now for Luxembourg, yes, we've had success in attracting roughly 60 companies, banks, asset managers to Luxembourg. In the short term, that's good news, but we don't want to forget that we need to reach out to London. So what's starting now is a new phase of negotiation for the future of the relationship, and we must make sure as an EU and we as Luxembourg that we can continue to work well with the United Kingdom and the City of London, especially because they will lose the automatic access to the EU single market.
Minister, we have a rapidly developing story with the coronavirus. I'd like to get you to weigh in as a finance minister of a important European country, whether you're taking any additional steps and sort of where your thinking is.
No, for the moment, as Luxembourg, we are observing that the Chinese government has taken extraordinary measures. If we compare with the situation many years ago with the SARS virus, we know that the OMS is following this at international level very thoroughly. So I think one has to be as objective and balanced as possible on this and monitor it every minute.